Hello and welcome to another episode of the Poems I Love. It's so good to know that you're watching this right here. And special thanks to everyone that has subscribed to the channel so far. Thanks to everyone who keeps sharing. Thanks to everyone who keeps showing us love. Thanks to everyone who keeps commenting, liking all our posts, and just enjoying the moment through all our poems, and for all our guests that come on here to read one poem or the other. And as you can see, I'm not here alone. We are here at this table celebrating 24 episodes so far. Come on now, 24 episodes so far. Though the last time we were here, three of us, myself, Mr. Servio, and Lighton, was the 12th episode. But looking back now, 12 more episodes, and we're right here, 24, celebrating 24 episodes so far, and the 12th episode for this season. That's great. And like I said, I'm not here alone. And with the gang right here, on my right hand is Anthonia. Good to see you. Good to have you.
Thank you.
And on my left hand side is Servio Gbadamosi. Good day to you.
Oh, good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the 24th episode of the Poems I Love.
All right, so I think I'll start with Servio Gbadamosi. 24 episodes so far. And you've been the executive producer, episode in, episode out, putting logistics together, calling and getting people to talk and just bring on their A game in terms of reading poems that touch their heart and just celebrating the beauty of words. How is that like for you?
Well, it's been a journey of discovery. Like I did say when we were recording, when we were having this kind of conversation for the 12th edition of the event of the podcast rather. When we were starting out, somewhere in my head, I felt it would be easy. Nigeria, poets plenty for Nigeria. As a poets plenty for Nigeria, everybody write poems. And I felt I knew too many people and was connected with too many poets. And at the snap of a finger like this, you'd be able to just create a lineup and say, oh yeah, you come to the studio on this day, that day, and we'll keep recording, back to back. At a point, I was even thinking, oh, maybe we could even do 2-3 episodes per week. But man, the experience has humbled me. It has humbled me because it's a tough job. Yes, there's an abundance of poets. There's an abundance of people who read, write, and love poetry. Mm-hmm. But then we are all alive and living and experiencing life. Mm-hmm. And we have commitments, we have responsibilities here and there that sort of sometimes stand in the way of expressing our love for something like poetry, for example. So a lot of people are either in schools or working at different jobs. They have all sorts of other commitments and engagements that sort of keep them away, that determine their availability or not, even when they so gladly accepted or want to be on the podcast. So it's been a journey of learning, and we've had to rethink the way that we do the recording. Mm-hmm. For example, now one of the things that we did in this episode in this season that we are wrapping up today was the fact that we decided to travel. Go to where some of the poets are. And then that sort of made it easier because we on the sidelines of the events that we were able to cover, we were able to have conversations and have recordings with some of these very brilliant poets who are writing and reading fantastic work across the country. And then again, I am happy that this particular season, the previous 11 episodes, we were able to feature more women poets.
I was about to get to that.
More women poets, because that's one of the things I so much wanted us to have in the first season, but somehow the logistics of that didn't quite work out. And so for this second one, and I dare say even the third season that we are going into, we do have a very good number of women who have come on the podcast, who we have interacted with, who we have recorded, who are sharing their best poems they love, who are sharing their love for words, for beauty, for life, and for literature in general.
Awesome. I'll take you up on that idea that, because I also recall that the last time we had this conversation at this table was our appeal to female poets out there to come on board and just do that, and also the logistics, didn't really play out. But fortunately, we saw women, and that's why I want to turn my attention now to the woman in this house. And of course, it's your like your debut feature, the poems I love. So two things: being a woman and being the first feature in the podcast. How does it feel like?
It's quite challenging
Interesting.
because this is the very first time I'll be on camera reading poems. I never thought about something like this, and it's pushed me actually out of my comfort zone. So I think I'm trying to adjust. Yes.
So in terms of finding women who can, yes, you've established the fact that it was a hard one, but you had to push through.
Yeah.
But representing women here who featured on our episode, and for like other women out there who see this and maybe somehow they don't have the platform, what would you like the word of encouragement? What would be that word for them?
I would say they should try as much as possible to come out of their shell, because it's going to be very difficult. But the moment you come out, you feel that relief, you feel that confidence that will come out of you, and you'll be very proud of yourself. So even if you're writing poems, try as much as possible to showcase yourself, make videos, make whatever it is that will just take you out there.
Awesome. Now let's get to the details of the poems now. First off, right, I observed that from the last season and this season, we had poems, not poems now, poets feature. The last season, we had, a good number of guests that came on board to read poems by J.P. Clark. And then we also had this season too, someone read a poem by J.P. Clark. Last season, before the wrap of this one now, we had people read poems by Servio Gbadamosi. And now another one here, this season that we're just wrapping up now, people read poems by Servio Gbadamosi. Well, what would you say has caused that to happen? And this is just to mention a few of the people that have had to, poets that have had to feature in this season that we're wrapping up. What do you think has happened?
Well, I would think of it as something about the power that poetry and literature or arts in general do carry, about the latent power that poetry or literature and art in general do carry, because a lot of us who are poets, we create these works in isolation. You create them by yourself, sometimes even for yourself, right? And then it goes out there into the world, and then it resonates with a couple of people. Do you understand? And so it's surprising that, or let me not use the word surprising. It's a delight to find that, okay, so there are people in different parts of the country, in different parts of the world, who have encountered these works and who are able to establish a connection with the work. The work resonates with them. And for example, now, J.P. Clark's, a lot of poems by J.P. A handful of poems by J.P. Clark featured in the first season.
Especially Ibadan.
You had Ibadan, you had Abiku, you had I think there was Streamside Exchange. I'm not sure if there was Night. Oh no, Night was by Shoyinka. At least I remember those three clearly. And then Abiku also featured. Now in this second season, we also have the Abiku making a return, making a return in the episode, in one of the two episodes that Olaiton Junaid presented, and in the very first one, that one in which Abiku by J.P. Clark featured, he did a comparative reading of Abiku by J.P. Clark with If You Could Trick Death with a Name, and one of the most beautiful experiences I've also had in this podcast is how poetry across generations speaks to each other, how there are links, how what was links directly with what is, and then the possibility that what is now is also going to have a linkage to what will be.
Awesome.
So it's intergenerational or cross-generational conversations that some of these poems and poets are having, and it shows so much you get in the way that the episodes in the first season and in the second season that we are wrapping up now have conversed.
Awesome. Let me head over to Anthonia. You, in your debut feature, you read about 4 poems. Can you walk us through your selection process? Even though out of all of the poems that you could have read, or you said, no, let me deal with this 4. And I also observed that it was a national conscious, most of them are national conscious, continental conscious too, because there was Africa by Shola Onibi that you read. So what was that selection process like for you?
I would say it was I just stumbled across it. So when I read those poems, I was able to relate them to our current happenings. Especially, you see the recent killings in Benue State now. So things like that is just like these poets, they see the future. They see the future. So I just felt good reading it and just trying
to put my let's do a breakdown of the episodes. The first episode we had Mr. Ndubisi Martins Animeka. The second episode we had Elizabeth Kejo Moro. The third Olaiton we had Jackie Bakongubi. We had Okperi Tunji. We had Sada Yahaya. Let's talk about Sada Yahaya. Let's talk about Sada. Sada is the youngest of all the poets that featured, a teenager, by the way. What feeling do you get from that kind of experience? I think you should go first.
Okay, so first, let me talk about how the recording came to be. So I was in Makodi on the sidelines of the Benue Book and Arts Festival, and Sada she had come to participate in the Poetry Slam competition, which has taken her, I bet, to some parts of the country. She's participated in it in Lagos, she's participated in it in Abuja, and she did quite well, right? So she came on the sidelines, and I was just talking with her. I was preparing to record a number of poets, and then I said, look, I would like you to come feature on this. She had cold feet initially. She wasn't so sure, but of course, Blessing Omezia Ojo was also there, and I think that, of course, Blessing has been one of the mentors who work with a lot of young writers in the north central part of Nigeria. And so I think that there was a conversation, and then she made a decision to come on it. And then I told her, look, this is the format. You are free to come here and express yourself to the fullest. You could even read some of your own works. And when she came in, when the tapes started rolling, she was just doing her magic. She brought in her A game. That initial reluctance did not show at all when the process of recording started. And I found it, she had an emotive reading or rendering of those poems, maybe because she has one leg in the world of performance. So that element sort of showed in her presentation of those poems. It was a delightful thing. And then of course on the sidelines of the same festival too, I was able to record Jackie Bakongubi. I was able to record Elizabeth KJ Umoru. And these are some of the women poets who came on this particular season and who brought their art into everything that they read. You could tell the difference. For example, Elizabeth KJ Umoru is also part of the poetry performance scene in Nigeria. Wow. And you could see that in the way she conveyed and read and performed, brought life to those poems that she read. So it's a mix for me. For example, it was slightly different from the traditional kind of poetry reading that we had more of in the first season. Yes. Now you had performers who know how to own the stage coming in to be a part of the second season.
Awesome. I think that, like I said, looking at Sada, the youngest of all poets that featured on this, and of course a girl. How does that make you feel also as a woman and someone who has young people around?
Watching her video, it was very impressive considering her age and where she was coming from. So when I saw her and realized that, oh, this is a very young girl, I was very impressed. I was happy to see somebody like that pushing herself out there, showing that, oh, yes, this is what she has and this is what she's giving to the world. So I was very impressed.
Also, Olaito, shout out to you. Featured twice. I don't know why. It wasn't intentional. Trust me. We had Anna Mokafe. We had Mr. Swedi Veshma Agema. We had Anthonia. We had Mr. Joba, and all of that. I would like to let's go through the poems now. Of all the, definitely there is a whole lot of poems to look through. A lot of them. But what would you consider your top three?
That's hard. That is difficult because, for example, each of the poets who featured, they had reasons for selecting the poems, the list that they curated, and there's so much to love. There's so much to love. There's so much to love, and that's it. Initially, when we conceived of the idea of the podcast, it felt like you people are going to be limiting because you're only going to say that I can only read or share X number of poems. And what if I love 100 poems? What if I love 200 poems and I'm only allowed to read 2, 3, 4, 5? And we said no. Love is boundless, right? It is just that we are only going to limit you to a specific number because of the constraint of time. You can come on another episode, and that is what somebody like Olaito has done in this season. For example, he appeared on 2 episodes now. Sure, you get on each of those 2 episodes, he read some of the poems that he loved, some of the poems that he's through the years have resonated with him, that is able to establish a connection with. So for me, it's difficult. I wouldn't be able to say that these are my top 3. Do you understand? Well, I'm sure you understand me, because there's so much to love. There's so much to love, and I really cannot lay a finger on the top 3.
What about you, Anthony? What would you just randomly? Don't let me put a number to it now.
The poems I read or other
even if it's yours.
Okay, I remember one of the poems I read about Africa. Yes, that
That's
poem,
by Shola Wonibi.
Yes, so that poem was very. I don't know how to put it, but it was very relatable because we Africans, every time we have the opportunity, we always blame the colonialists. We always have something to say about them, but we don't remember that, we have leaders, and these leaders are not doing the things that they are supposed to do. So that poem was very, very educative and good for me.
I like to select, if you allow me now, I like to select some poems that some of our guests read. I want to start with Abiku by
J.P.
Clark, and how to treat death. I see death in that thing. There was also there was something Mr. Swedi also did with the poems read by Professor
Hygienist Equality.
Most of them were more that had that thematic. Anthonia also did one that was about national consciousness, bringing us to the reality of things in our nation. Right. When we look at all of these things, we see that poetry speaks to every part of society, regardless of what you may think of poetry and all of that. So how then are we to encourage any budding or any new emerging or aspiring poet out there who wants to write stuff, and then maybe they feel like they're in a box and they don't know what to write. They are still looking for maybe some are still thinking about maybe they need to find a niche, and some are just like I like to write about everything, but then it looks maybe they feel like it's awkward writing about everything at the same time. What will be your message to them?
Well, the thing is, I think that it's important for for every artist, for every writer, poet, or artist in general, to yield yourself to magic. Let magic happen to you. Just experience creativity, experience art, experience the joy or pleasure of putting words together first. And so I would say for writers or poets in particular that One of the most pleasurable things that you can do is reading what has been written by others first, because that's how you begin to see the world. That's how you equip yourself. Now, of course, you don't have to necessarily imitate or strive to recreate what those people have done, but then you see how to do it by the examples of their writing. You learn about style, you learn about language, you learn about, that's how you gain and attain mastery gradually, because you see how poet A or writer B approached subject A. You see how they brought the uniqueness of their style to it. Because even when you take, say for example, you want to curate a series of poems talking about a particular theme, and you choose to say, for example, you are going to bring together 10 poems talking about death, for example, there is going to be a uniqueness to how each of those poets would approach the subject of death. For example, they're all talking about death too, but there's that uniqueness that each one of them brings. Uniqueness in language, uniqueness in style, uniqueness, in the way, in craftsmanship in general. So I feel that a lot, when it comes to art, when it comes to writing, when it comes to poetry, it's basically, yes, the imagination plays a crucial role. But then, one of the things that we also need to do is to feed that imagination. What are you feeding it? You need to read widely. You need to pay attention to things happening in and around you. Know the name of the plants. Know the names of the animals. Know about nature. Observe human actions and inactions. How animals and humans interact. How we interact with the planet. Watch the news if you must. Documentaries. Think. All of these things become like a magnet. Become like a magnet for all sorts of things and details and information. Just do a mashup of all of these things and let them sit somewhere in your unconscious. Because when you get into that creative process, that is what your mind begins to recall.
Awesome.
And your imagination begins to interpret or reinterpret.
Awesome. Backstage before we came here, I was still telling you that there are some poems that featured. There were some poems that featured in this last episode, and they seemed like it was hard for me to understand. And it's still hard for me to understand. I want to ask, out of all the poems that featured, did you ever felt like there was a poem that was maybe hard to understand, or someone read the poem and it felt like someone is not saying something that is not clear, that you have to read for better interpretation?
No, there was no poem. I didn't come across any. In fact, I came across one that I really liked. It was Elizabeth KJ. She read that poem by Swedi.
Transition by Swedi Veshima Agema.
Yes, so that poem really was very good.
Honestly, and that's the interesting thing about poetry. By the time this person reads it, both will get different interpretations. And what this person is hearing or seeing is different from what this person is saying. But let's begin to wrap things up now. You had your first and debut feature. What would you like to see going forward at the Poems I Love? What kind of poems are you looking forward to? What kind of guests, what kind of engagement are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to any kind of poems, every kind of poems. Like, we shouldn't be focused on a certain kind of reading. So any kind of poems is fine by me, and readers or poets that are very engaging, funny, and they bring life to whatever it is they are reading.
Awesome. Now to the executive producer, what are we to expect going forward?
Well, a lot more magic. We're going out more. We're reaching out. We're casting the net across across the waters, and hoping to bring you a lot more poets from different parts of the country doing fantastic work, sometimes sharing from their own writings, and at other times reading some of the most fascinating poems that they have come across. So yes, we did do some more recordings in Abuja. We've done some in Ibadan, and we are doing more. Soon again, I hope that in this particular season we would also be able to do a tour of Lagos and record even more poems. So we're going round gradually. The plan is to go to where the poets are, where the poets congregate, take it to their doorsteps, have them share some of the most fascinating poems they've come across for your listening and viewing pleasure.
Awesome. There is nothing more to say than just for me to add this, that please support us. Share it out there. We are on YouTube and on Spotify. On YouTube, our channel is Ibadan Book and Arts Festival. Share it to everyone. When you come across our videos, tell someone about the fact that you just jammed one interesting page, you jammed one interesting channel, and you think you think they like it. Engage. Let's also engage. Like, comment, share. And once again, please support us. You can see what he said. You can hear what he said. We are going to the places. Please support us. Once again, support us. I can't overemphasize that. Support us. When you see our videos, share it, comment, like, tell someone about the poems I love, and I'm sure that you're gonna enjoy it. Once again, my name is Kayode Sanni. With me on my right hand side is Anthonia. On the left hand side is our executive producer, Servio Gbadamosi. Good to have you. And yes, so how do we wrap this up now? Than to say, see you next time. Bye.
See you next season.